Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Pingutan and today we are going to be going through the patch notes for Storybook Brawl. They have just released 67.4 and there's not too many changes, but a couple of big things that will definitely shake up the meta. Let's just get started. The first hero that they're changing is King Midas. So it's a little bit of an interesting wording choice they've gone for it, but what this means is that now King Midas can get treasures from quest characters. That's pretty much the only change, but it is a big one for this character. I feel like the pros generally think that this character is okay, but majority of people struggle with it, including me. I never really got King Midas to pop off properly, but I feel like he will be doing very well now that he can actually get some treasures with quest units. Especially with the royal synergy that he has, a lot of the time as King Midas you usually go for Prince Arthur, and now that is a massive buff to that variation of playing him. So I actually might be picking King Midas a few times now. Second change is Sphinx. Now, I like it. I like that she only has one spell now. She definitely needed something to be done about her. I don't know if this is enough. I feel like she still has the problem of easy XP, easy leveling up. It's just half the chance of getting it. I think she will still snowball just as hard, but less often. So I don't know if I like this change too much, but we'll see. I could be wrong about that. I still would probably put Sphinx at maybe top of A tier, maybe even still S. But yeah, she's alright. Although I suppose a couple of the other changes they've been making have been pushing the meta back into mid-game as opposed to late game, so the sixes aren't as important, but we'll get to that in a second. Good Boy. The change they've got here is they have made it so that he cannot buff himself. So the two things that this is for are copycat comps. Copycat used to make Good Boy give his stats to himself. And if you have a second copycat, he would give the doubled stats to everyone and himself again, and it can just get completely out of control. And same with Trophy Hunter. If he slays, then he will give himself stats, and that can just get insanely out of hand again. So this is a nice way to nerf those variations of the comp, but otherwise leave Good Boy exactly the same. Because if he activates the way he's meant to, this change makes absolutely no difference, because he's not around to get buffed by himself. So I like this change. It was definitely needed. Moving on to Friendly Spirit, I believe it is the exact same change. Yes, and because it is for the exact same reasons, I'm not going to talk too much about that, but both of those characters had the exact same problem with Copycat and Trophy Hunter buffing itself and just getting really out of hand. So glad to see those changes. The next one is the big one of the patch, in my opinion, Jormungand. So Jormungand was generally considered to be the worst 6-drop. If you got him early, maybe an upgraded one through True Love's Kiss, or even just a regular Jormungand and maybe level 4, he was very good, because you're gonna have it in the first slot, you slay something for 20-20, and suddenly you've got a 40-35 unit, and there's no way that the enemy's going to be taking that out on level 4. But in general, if you're getting him on level 6, if you're having him in the late game, he was useless. Now they've made it so that if another character slays, he will also gain plus 20. So I have played a game with him today, and I have learned that the plus 20 he gets from another character slaying does not count as a slay. So if he is in front of a Baba Yaga, the first part of his effect won't get doubled. But I do still like having Jormungand. I've only had one game with him, and I did do quite well, but that could just be luck of the draw, the characters that I was versing weren't that good. In terms of something like a Trophy Hunter or a Grimsoul comp, obviously this is insane if you can use Grimsoul to trigger another character's slay, because it also triggers Jormungand's, but it's very difficult to fit him into the comp because he could absorb the slay. If Grimsoul triggers on him, then he gets the +20/+20 and you get no other bonus. So I'm not too sure how he will pan out, but I have quite high hopes for Jormungand as probably the one believer. I like it. Okay, Bossy. So I like this little image they've got here from RIP to Alive Again. Bossy, I reckon, definitely needed to come back. I don't know if he needed to be a 5 cost. Maybe they thought he was too strong on 4. I think that the 4 cost +2/+2 would have been better for the game, but they've decided to do it this way. Another 5 cost is good. They've added to the pool of 5 costs, so you're not just getting an upgraded Nian every second turn because there's only 8 5 costs in the game. It definitely brings back dwarves. Last patch, dwarves were almost out of the game because they just got completely gutted in the patch for that, getting rid of Princess White and Bossy and changing Tweedledee, which changing Tweedledee did help out with Tweedledee, but he didn't really work out in dwarf comps, and I think he actually could now with the changes to Bossy, and we'll move on to the change to Princess White. So now she doesn't give any passive buff as the old Lordy did. Well, I suppose the current Lordy, now that he's brought back. But she gives dwarfs in your shop +1/+2. Hard to pin down what this change does. I haven't played with Princess White this patch yet. I think it could be good. It gives you that tempo increase in the early game because these stats are permanent. So you pick up Princess White on 3-0 and you pick up a Tiny. He's a 7-3. Not ideal, but it could be decent. Or maybe a Doubly, which would be a 3-5. Permanent stats, that could be good. You only need to give it a little bit of attack and health, and it should be able to carry you through the mid game. Also changes her to be an okay Gwen target again, because a 3 cost giving all of your dwarfs in your shop +2/+4 on 3-0 could be quite insane. Definitely the tempo increase that you could snowball the game with. Also, the other thing to note about this Princess White is I believe her effect still works if she is in your bench, because it's only on your turn that you're buying characters from the shop, so you don't even need to have her in combat anymore, which actually seems pretty good. You don't need to run the non-dwarf unit in your dwarf comp. I reckon, yeah, actually, I believe that Princess White could be a good unit in this new patch. I might actually play some more dwarfs. What have we got next? Great Pumpkin. This is another one of those big changes that they've made. They've changed him from a 6 cost 10/10 to a 5 cost 2/2. So nothing else is really affected by that other than the fact that you can get him much earlier, and the extreme late game of him where you're running a full board of 6 drops. He himself is a 5, so you cannot summon just 5s from him. I like the change. As I said with Bossy earlier, I like that he's adding to the 5 cost pool, because the numbers were ridiculously skewed on 5s earlier, where there's 34s and then about 8 5 drops. So I'm glad to see that they're upping that a little bit. Getting Great Pumpkin earlier is very good if you get Ancient Sarcophagus, but I don't feel like it's that impactful. You're not usually winning a game with a Great Pumpkin comp, but maybe now this is another thing that can help you stabilize at level 5 or maybe even level 4 so that you can stay in the game to be able to build a big comp later on. But I don't really even know what you'd pivot into, because there's not really that many good evil 6 drops that you'd be able to go out of Great Pumpkin. So not too sure where he's going, but I suppose he's pretty good for if you're losing and you're gonna try and aim for a 3rd or a 4th as opposed to coming 6th. So yeah, I reckon that's a pretty good change. What have we got? Shoulder Fairies. So this is one that I know they were trying to get rid of for a while. I don't necessarily agree with their reasoning. So the main thing that they've done here is make it so Shoulder Fairies doesn't trigger Echo Wood. They've changed the wording, which I feel like they've just made a lot more, added a lot more complication to it. All this really means is doesn't trigger Echo Wood. It still gains the stats or has the stats at the start of combat, but it doesn't gain them, so Echo Wood doesn't trigger. It will keep the stats during combat as it did earlier, even though that's not in the wording. They've added that at the end. I don't think it was necessary. I don't think Echo Wood was that imbalanced with Shoulder Fairies. I feel like if you've got a 5 and a 6, then both of them scaling to your highest attack evil and your highest health good isn't that overpowered for the amount of investment that you've gotten to get there, but they thought that was important, so I guess that's the case. Yeah, this has pretty much gutted the comp, in my opinion. The only way that you're really going to play trees anymore is if you can manage to get Round Table, and that is very unreliable on non-Horde Dragon heroes. So I don't think Shoulder Fairies is going to see that much play anymore. But who knows? That's another one of those things I'm not too sure about, but they could do pretty well with. Ninth Book of Merlin going from a 5 to a 6. Good change in my opinion. The Ninth Book of Merlin was very strong, and a lot of people are upset because you get this, you get Mimic, you're casting 14 plus spells every round. If you're on level 6, the amount of Pegamorphs that come, the amount of Shrivels and just combat spells that come at you, you usually... whoever's playing with the Ninth Book of Merlin usually wins any combat versus any unit, because the amount of just transforms and stuff just get rid of your units regardless of the stats, and there's not really any counterplay around that. So I'm glad that they made it a little bit harder to achieve, and especially on a 6 cost. Getting a 6 cost treasure is a lot harder than getting a 5 cost treasure. There's no Nian, there's no Runestone's Blind Mice to get it earlier. Yeah, 6s are quite a bit harder to get, so I'm glad that they've made that change. Horn of Olympus and Evil Eye. They've reduced both of the costs by 1. I am a little bit unsure as to why they did that, because I feel like both of those treasures were quite good where they were, but maybe that's just my opinion. I know a lot of other people are quite sad to see Horn of Olympus when they get a 5-cost treasure. Maybe this will change that. But I think that Evil Eye is an extremely good treasure. You get it with Baba Yaga, you probably are going to be winning games. And Horn of Olympus, maybe it's just the way that I play. I like a lot of Slay heroes, maybe Riverwish Mermaid plus Baba Yaga in the backline. If you get those two with Horn of Olympus that early, because it's only a 4-cost treasure, I reckon you're doing pretty well. Also, this gives a reason to pick up Blind Mice on Pup the Magic Dragon in the odd game that you decide to play him, or if you're forced into playing him because you've got a terrible selection. Horn of Olympus could be quite a good pickup if you can get it off of Blind Mice. Yeah, not going to say too much more about Evil Eye either. They're pretty roughly the same change in my opinion. What do they say about it? Both of these treasures got bumped down a level as they were both fun and underpowered at their current level. Well, I guess they thought they were underpowered. Maybe the stats have proved that. Pushing build around treasures like these helps open the door for more inventive squads, so sound the horn and get your supports ready. I suppose that is actually a good point for them. You do need to build your comp around these treasures. So if you're getting your Evil Eye once you've already half completed your build at level 6, you can't exactly pivot into a support comp. It's only really good if you already get it. So I can definitely understand that side of the reasoning for it. Same sort of with Horn of Olympus. I like those changes, obviously, because I liked the treasures to begin with, and now they're easier to get, but yeah. Fancy Pants has gone from +2/+2 to +3/+3. Good change. I feel like Fancy Pants was very underwhelming, and now it's just a little bit better. That's about all I can say about that. Tree of Life has been cut. Good. Tree of Life was very hit or miss. Either you've got really strong characters and Tree of Life ensures that you cannot lose, or you're doing okay and Tree of Life is literally useless because everything gets one shot. So I don't really like that it was in the game, because it was never an average treasure. It never sort of helps you. It's either win the game or do nothing. Hidden Cache, never really played around with too much. I don't really understand their reasoning for getting rid of it. I don't think it was that bad. I don't think it was that overpowered. Yeah, not too sure about that. Hand of Venka, I'm not too sure which one that was, whether that's the one that gives stats to the one units behind it or stats to the units on the same row. But again, I don't understand why they've gotten rid of that. That seems like a pretty decent treasure to me. They're all being cut this patch. Tree of Life either did nothing or made the fight completely lopsided. Exactly, yep. While triggering a ton of animations. Don't think that was that big of a problem, but yeah, I guess. Hidden Cache and Hand of Venka just weren't fun enough to justify their slots, and cutting all three of these opens the door to more fun treasures. Yeah, okay, I would agree that these two aren't that fun, so they can definitely get away with that, but I don't think they're adding any more treasures in this patch. I know in the beta patch notes they had a couple of interesting ones, but they definitely seemed quite strong, so I am quite happy that they didn't make it in. What have we got here? Ooh, new art. That Elshwood Elm looks amazing. I didn't even recognize that as the character. I really like that. It's a shame that they've just bloody gutted the Shoulder Fairies comp, because I would have liked to play that. And Toil and Trouble, that... I don't think that used to be called that, but I like that animation a little bit too. And we're pretty much at the end of it. What have they changed in the bug fixes? Good. They haven't really changed too much. Sphinx. If you wish upon a star, win the brawl and level up to X out of 1, you don't get free spells. Okay, that's good. That was a thing that just blew out of the water as well. Now you have to actually think about when you're buying your XP. Mordred, the character that is summoned from his ability, could be gone forever if they get transformed. Good. That was very frustrating the one time that happened to me. And Brave Princess, that's never happened to me, where Brave Princess getting transformed into something would not get triggered by Grimsoul, but I can imagine that being very frustrating, so good that they've gotten rid of that. And Monster Book or Ninth Book of Merlin would cast a fireball on the last front row enemy. It would cast a second copy on the back row enemy. I have no idea why that would have happened, but glad that they got rid of that. Fireball is quite a strong spell, and casting a second one of it for free for no reason is a little bit OP, but Overall, I'm quite excited about this patch. Now we have another 4 days to learn it before the tournament, but yeah, I reckon I'm ready for it. There's a lot of good changes. They've brought Trophy Hunter back down to where he needs to be, so that's not an auto win. Same with Sphinx. And they've made King Midas okay, so you're not too sad if you end up forced to be playing with them. Yeah, good patch. Alright, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.